Hey screen printers! During the coronavirus pandemic, the face mask has literally become one of the hottest items. It's available from DIY to mass produce in all different colors, shapes, and fabrics. And since we're going to be wearing them for the foreseeable future, businesses for their employees and as consumers are going to want things decorated on them. They're going to come to you to ask them printed. So in this instructional screen printing video, we're going to show you how to successfully screen print a variety of different face masks using this step-by-step guide. It all starts by knowing what masks you're going to be printing. Now, there are a variety of different masks out there, from your basic DIY masks, single ply, 2-ply, 3-ply, to simple fabric masks that are cut out of fabric without any elastic at all. Knowing the fabric type, whether it's a blend, polyester, or cotton, and the color of the mask is going to be important when it comes to printing on it. Now, light color masks are always going to be easier to print than dark color masks, but dark color masks show a lot less, especially since they're on your face. So there's kind of a dichotomy there that we'll have to walk through when it comes to printing. Once we've chosen the mask, we can choose the ink, and the answer is water-based. All right, so there's a little bit more to just water-based. Now, most masks are going to be made out of cotton or polyester cotton blends, and normal t-shirt ink will work just fine. However, if you're printing on a medical or specialty mask, you want to make sure that your ink sticks to whatever you're printing on, and you might need to use a specialty ink or some type of catalyst to adhere it. The reason why we choose water-based is because it doesn't have any plasticizers or PVC in it. So that means as you're breathing through it, it's eco-friendly and it's friendly to you. Also, it prints better because it flows. You can use low solids or runnier water-based, or medium solids like this pitch black here, or a high solids. The easier that it flows through the mesh, the more likely it is going to be easier to print because it will print over seams and or pleats in the fabric. Okay, when it comes to printing on darker masks, it's a little bit more complex. You need to use a more opaque ink like this HSA Comet White water-based ink. Now, if your customer wants something nice and bright and opaque, like most people do on black shirts, you're going to need to flash print that. And that gets a little bit more tricky, but you can easily do that with the right platen attachments, and we'll talk about that next. You can also go with more of a vintage design by thinning down your water-based ink and only hitting it once. This also could be easier to breathe through. Now let's move to the press and get set up. Besides your mask and ink, you're going to need a few other things like screens, platen attachments, and then proper setup and registration of your press. Let's talk about screens. First, mesh. 156 to 230 mesh typically should work. Thin thread will allow more ink to pass through as well, which is optimal when printing over seams and pleats. You also want to use a water-resistant emulsion if you're using water-based ink. Keeping in mind that you're using specialty platens that will have little grooves in them and pleats, your screen needs to be very hard. So definitely double coat it. Though EOM doesn't really matter, the thickness of your emulsion doesn't matter. It does matter that you have a strong stencil. So you also might need to post-harden it or harden the screen once you've made it. All right, let's talk about our platen setup. Now, you do need a special platen, or we'd recommend a special platen for effectively printing onto masks, because most masks are 2-ply. And even if they aren't 2-ply, the likelihood of using spray adhesive is probably not a good idea because you are putting this on your mouth. Now, if you have to use a tack, you could definitely use an eco-friendly water-based tack, but we'd recommend just not using a tack and using some type of hold-down attachment. So let's talk about a little bit of the different hold-down attachments available. So you could use something as simple as a rubber band to hold it down. By using 1 to 2 rubber bands and kind of positioning the mask underneath it, you might be able to get the mask flat enough to do 1 or 2 masks. Now obviously, it's probably not going to be effective, especially under heat. So you definitely want some type of hold-down attachment. Now essentially a hold-down attachment is a piece of wood or metal that goes over a platen, similar to like an embroidery hoop. So if you put a mask down like this is the Port Authority mask that we're doing right here, available next month from Sanmar, you can see how well this holds it down. Now it's flat and it doesn't move during the printing process. Now there's a variety of different hold downs that you can use, something that is manufactured or something that you can develop yourself. This is a DIY one. Essentially a hold down is essentially just a piece of wood. I think this is about 1/4 inch, a squeegee, and a square cut in both. That's just glued to another existing sleeve platen. So basically made it himself. Or you can use something a little bit more advanced, which is probably going to be more effective, like this one made from Action Engineering. This is a dual mask hold down, and they also have a much more simpler single mask hold down available. But this all mask right here, which has a contour cut, has a special platen. There's also square platens for the more standard masks that don't have a special cut. Watch your fingers there. And you can see that this snaps down, holding the mask in play, allowing you to print over most of the surface of the mask. Again, You have different attachments, or you can order the mask with either square platens or different platens depending on the type of mask that you're printing. I'm sure that they can also make a specialty platen for your situation. So let's talk about print placement. Typically, people are getting requests to print either on the center of the mask or on one of the corners of the mask or down the side. So depending on your art and your platen, you definitely want to make sure that you have your print placement and your screens set up appropriately. A lot of times these platens will have downloadable templates that you can download into Illustrator or Photoshop in order to get your print placement right. Also, depending on your platen and your mask orientation, you might have to reverse the screen in the way you burn the image so it faces right on the mask once somebody puts it on. Let's take a look at a couple of different types of masks available right now and talk about print placements and how you go about holding them down. First, you have your basic single ply face cover. This is something like Bella Canvas would have, or somebody would make out of a laser cutter. Now, again, recommend using a hold down. You could use a bigger hold down so you can get over the mask. Print placement can be center or all over it. Instead of spray tack, though, you could use it, but especially like on this one with fleece, it's gonna get all stuck in that and not be very comfortable to wear. Next, you have something like this Port Authority mask, which is mostly square, maybe some side pleats, but mostly square. Definitely want to hold down, and you can do a print placement in the center, on the sides, or all over the front. Now you have something like a more specialty mask. This has sew mark down the center to give it a contour or shape. Obviously, going to be harder to print in the center and or harder to hold down in the center, though you might get away with it on a lighter version of this with a thinned down water-based ink. So you could place the print on this one or the mask off to the side on a hold down like this, going more on the right or left of the mouth or on the side of the mask. Now we have something like this, which is the Toltex mask that has pleats in it. So if you take a look at the pleats, it might look hard to print, but imagine that under a hold down and being held tight, you could probably print on that relatively easily, again using a thinner water-based ink that it goes over those pleats. You also have different masks coming out that have maybe only one ply, but a shape on them. Again, print placement fairly center and anywhere, but using a hold down that's maybe slightly larger might be good. And then we have the all mask, which is a nice fitted mask, available in 2 and 3 ply. So the hold down would allow you to print on the center or the sides of that fairly easily. Let's go over the single hold down platens available from Action. These are going to be much more cost effective and probably just as fast to load. So first you have the square one, which is great for like your standard cotton mask, 2-ply mask. That's the Toltex mask right there. This is the more government style mask. Obviously we printed on this a few times. So holds it down nice and flat. Let's go over to the all mask. This is the all mask single. Works very similarly as the all mask dual, but just load it up on top, slide it down below. You have versions with the center seam as well as without the center seam in case you don't have the center seam in your print right there. And then we have the universal. Now the universal is by far my favorite because it's got a 3x3 inch print area and can print pretty much anything. So you can print, you know, your pleated style mask here. You can do a side print, a front print. You can print your fitted mask like the all mask, either in the front like that. Front print right there. You can do a little bit lower if you need to. You can do a side print right here. Just kind of have to line it up appropriately. This is a more difficult mask to print. Even that works great on the universal because you can just side seam it, side print it right there. Your hold down works great for all these multiple layer masks. Also, I think this is probably your most friendly mask for printing because it basically will print on anything, and most of the time you're not going to be printing bigger than a 3x3 inch print anyway. Now let's cover printing manually on a mask. We're going to be using our DIY jig here on a Riley 350 press, and we're going to be using pitch black water-based ink on the Port Authority standard cotton mask. This is a 3-ply mask, so we do need to use a hold down. So right here we're going to be using, this is actually face up because the artwork is reversed. So I have it positioned right now easily on the screen. I can put the screen down, I can see right through it. It's positioned right about the center of the palette there. And then I'm going to lift that up. We've got some nice little rubber bands there. Kind of just set the mask in the center of the design like so. So it's centered off there, everything's centered. As we flip this back over, you can see now the fabric's held in place. The cool thing about this is as your squeegee passes over, your fabric's going to maintain in place there. So make sure we're aligned one more time. You want to flood first. Now, you do want to be careful. You want to use a little bit higher mesh here. If you're using too low of a mesh, you could get some bleeding out on the edges. You don't want to put down too much pressure, which is easy to do, especially on these small little squeegees. A lot of times manually printing, you're just printing one at a time. So careful on your pressure, a little bit lower angle, and then print. Keep your screen down, so if your screen has too much off contact, kind of hold it down a little bit so that it's not leaving the design. Do 2 passes. Remember to flood your screen for water-based ink. My squeegee in the back there. And then we have a beautiful, nice, sharp, black centered print right in the middle there. Let's take that off, and now you see it right in the middle as well. Now it shows doing the same design, but on the side of a single ply platen. Now again, we want this to be on the side here, so we're going to put that single ply all the way out to the side, so it would be showing right here on my left cheek. We're going to put the hole down here so that we do not have to use spray tack adhesive. As you can see, obviously a professionally made hold down would be much faster and a little bit better than this, but you can do something pretty simply with even DIY hold downs. We're going to put that in the down position. We're already flooded. Keep the screen down, 2 passes, not too heavy a pressure so we don't get bleeding out. And remember to flood the screen. And again, nice print. So printing on lighter fabrics, as you can see with the manual press, is a lot easier because the ink travels so well into the fabric, you don't have to print flash print. So if you are doing a multiple color design, you can print flash print this. I would not recommend really tight registration, maybe a little bit spread registration, or you can even try wet on wet printing. So that would be a little bit of experimentation to make sure that you're not blurring your ink too much. This fabric doesn't move too much, but it can move, especially with a more DIY platen. As you'll see in the next part with automated printing, we're going to be using the Action Engineering 2 Platen, which is a much stronger hold down. Now let's cover printing on a darker mass using white ink and a multiple color print on an automatic press. That would be a lot more difficult to do unless we had a good platen like we do here, which is the Action Engineering dual hold down platen that holds the mask, the 2-ply mask, very well in place so we can print flash print and do a multiple color design in registration over that. When printing water-based ink, we typically have to use 2 strokes. So you want to set up your press to flood with the screen in the down position, or depending on the type of press, your palette in the up position. This is how you do that on the Rock. All right, so we made some changes to the Rock menu because we're doing a 2-ply item. What we did is we went under printhead functions, we selected final. This is going to keep the printhead in the down position even though it's doing 2 print strokes. Very important because you don't want that lifting up and then lifting the fabric up. So we're going to do 1 piece on, 1 piece off, and for this design we're going to be doing a center print on the left, and on the right we're going to be doing a left-hand print. So let's load the screen up with the Comet White, and we'll do our test print. Here you see 2 prints. This one we're going to leave a print flash print, but you can see it's nice, bright, and white and opaque. Probably a little bit low because we're building up a little bit on the seam right here, but you can't really tell that. So ideally maybe place a little bit higher. This one we're going to do an overprint. So we're going to flash this off. When we're flashing, do keep in mind that this could be delicate fabric, so you do want to flash a little bit more cautiously, maybe a little bit lower temperature for a little bit longer period of time, but you can always test that. So let's do a flash and then an overprint with a green. So depending on how many colors you're doing and how opaque you want it, right here we have a single white opaque print, and then we have a opaque underbase with a green water-based overprint. If you have multiple color, you might have to flash between colors. Having a bigger press would be advantageous for this. Obviously, if you keep your designs simpler, the easier it's going to be on darker garments especially. Now we're going to use the universal platen to print on the side of an all mask. So we have it positioned on the screen as well as the mask positioned in the corner here. pop the platen down, do a sample print. Now for the second print, and we'll see the position of it. Again, flooding in the down position. There it is. Nice and positioned, super crisp, great on the face. Let's move on to curing. This is a sensitive subject. It's a good thing because curing and using heat can re-sanitize the mask. The bad part is you gotta be careful with the elastic on the mask not to stick up and get burnt in the conveyor dryer. Going a little slower and lower in temperature could be better, especially with water-based ink. The good thing with these masks is that they're small, and even though that you're going slower, you can stack them on the conveyor dryer belt so you can still get a lot done. If you don't have a longer conveyor dryer or have a hard time getting a proper cure, you can also use Green Galaxy's Warp Drive, which when in the ink, will set the ink after 48 hours as long as it's dry to the touch. Finally, handling, and this is very important. After it comes off the conveyor dryer, you should be wearing gloves and a mask and be in a fairly sterile or clean environment. A lined box with a plastic bag so that the shirts fall into that is optimal. Remember again to use gloves when handling the masks out of the plastic bag that you catch it in and putting them directly into another plastic bag so that you maintain a fairly safe and sterile environment. You don't want people getting sick after you're printing the mask, so this is common sense. And finally, deliver them with pride. It's awesome that you're doing your part to help through this COVID crisis and beyond. Masks are here to stay, and by wearing them, people can keep their germs to themselves, keeping you and other people safe. They can also be used to cover other PPE like N95 medically rated masks. And finally, they can be used to keep your business alive and community together during this rough time. You can check out the all masks that we used in this video, available at allmade.com, and all the supplies and platens that we use for the video as well, available at screenprinting.com. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep powering the print, and remember to breathe happier.